doesn't get very much more local than that, you know. And Bill's been got that scene up there in Petaluma, huh? For decades now, huh? Yeah. So never fails. Yeah. So anyway, and then Gail. Well, I'll introduce her when she's going after Bill. So, okay, take it away, Bill.
Bill, there is a question and answer after you. Just so you know.
I'm going to do one thing before you start. I just want to move something off the piano here so you can see the title card so people know what they're seeing. Okay, thanks, Bill. Okay, we'll turn off this light.
Okay, well, I realized yesterday as I was thinking about what to read tonight that this week, October 1st, was when I moved to the city 50 years ago. 73. So, and I met Carolee Sanchez the first week I was here, so I'm going to read a poem by her, a poem by Paul Vane, and then I'll go from there. So, this is Carolee's book, From Spirit to Matter. It came out in '97. We did 3 books together. Some of our heroes are unknown to us. The fathers, los padres, surround us, hold free life and no trespass behind the same fence, while los osos, the bears, stand watch between the fathers and el mar Pacifico, the peaceful water. Somewhere in the region, ancient rocks carry picture stories about a happening that seemed important to make note of. The exact meanings are lost to me. The translators were re-educated and baptized into new beginnings. Running Bear became Jose. Little Deer turned into Ignacio. Bird with no song was called Esperanza, and Quietwater married a Lopez who left his name as the origin of the Laguna Lake outside Arroyo Grande, the big dry wash. My pen cracks ink into the blanks, ignores recent historical coatings of asphalt conquests and old Victorians oozing with substance and legend. Ignores yet older missions, those pearls of civilization, whipped from blood-caked mud by Frau Junipero Serra, testaments to the victory of Bartolomé de las Casas, champion of the heathen souls. Renamed, replaced, civilized into encomiendas, reinvented on the spot. San Santa, San Santa, San Santa. Ruega por nosotros, nuestro Padre, nuestro Señor. Pray for us, our Father, our Lord. Santa Barbara, San Ardo, San Juan Baptista, Santa Maria, Santa Rosa, San Miguel, San Isidro, Santa Inez, renamed, replaced, reinvented on the spot. In 1548, great scholars, great thinkers journeyed to Valladolid, royal capital of Carlos V, El Rey of 16th century Spain to debate the true nature of those native inhabitants of Nueva España. Juan Gines Sepulveda, world-renowned scholar and jurist, called them slaves, natural slaves as described in Aristotelian doctrine, that great ancestor of American thought, and argued for a papal bull, a declaration to the world of the soulless nature of Los Indios inhabiting the New World. But the Dominican padre insisted the Indian contained a soul, could be civilized, should be baptized, and saved. For 3 years they battled at the court of Carlos V, and in 1550, Holy Mother Church in Bartolome de las Casas won the day. The soul of the Indian and moral sanction to proceed with conquest in the name of Dios and Carlos Rey of Spain. San Santa, San Santa, San Santa. San Luis Obispo, San Juan Capistrano, Santa Margarita, San Ramon. Somewhere around here, ancient rocks carry picture stories about pre-Balboan times of heroic moments and ordinary days that missionized Juanita might interpret for me. Or maybe old man Pedro's grandfather, Shumash Diego, remembers the stories his grandfather told about coyote, the tides, the whales, the mollusk, the swallows, grasses and grains, sun, moon, and earth, and the 9,000-year history of the Chumash people. Mardi Gras, 1986, recounted, documented, retold. Mr. Lincoln was a tall man, we said, a hero and a paradox, we said. Bartolome de los Casas was a hero and a paradox, and some of our heroes are still unknown to us, renamed, replaced, reinvented on the spot. Carol Lee in 1973 lived on Collingwood Street, one block east of Castro. And Paula Gunn Allen, her sister, lived across the street, and Lee Francis, her brother, lived across the street. And that was the world I entered in 1973. So it's a really wonderful time for me. And Carol Lee at that time was married to Paul Vane, whose book I also did. And this is For a Poet Who Never Had a Benefit, for Pete Winslow. There are others now that have fallen since last year. Wheat in the fields, fair heads for the combine blade. You took your grasshopper, now you can take Patchen. You can have tea with Neruda and watch your fields still growing. The sower, you planted me in the rock and the shale of this coast, young sapling. Clutched here with a few stones, roots, and the wheat behind me, vanguard for the defense, yet scout for the combine. Farmers come here often to watch the wheat grow. They sing songs for dead wheat and harvests of the past, bundle bushels and cut tender ones in an aimless search for the stock that make them known among farmers. The grasshoppers leap in the sun. Here, I think of you then, eluding the farmers in your disguise, the sower, only on cloud-covered days, so the searchers were blind. Now you can have Whitman. You can watch Patchen running. You can have tea with Neruda. When I got into town, Pete Winslow had just been published by City Lights, and so I did not know. I had the book for a long time. So
Gail, I'm not here. Fast for me.
okay. So this is for Jack Michelin. The Way My Spirit Works. Coffee Gallery, 1973. My first reading in San Francisco. You were there, Jack. One of the 20 or 30 that signed up, not the feature, just back from New York, you said, and took the stage. Bob Kaufman came in from the bar. You took the stage and didn't let it go. I mean, you did your 5 minutes, maybe 7. But the stage was yours that night. I learned street all in one 5 to 7 minute read. Oh, truth, do not leave me. I was intimidated. I was burning. I was self-taught from a small town with little to fall back on, was blessed, made mistakes along the way. I went to university, a math major, to please my parents, to stay out of war's way. I met others who loved math, realized I didn't. Gave myself a test, pass, fail. Professor said you pass if you get a B on midterm or final. I aced the midterm, flunked the final. You fail, he said. I aced the midterm, I said. You must have cheated, he said. I took it as a sign pointing to philosophy. The Way My Spirit Works. You were a signpost too, Jack. It was your street. I could not love it as well as you, but I was drunk with wine, with poesy, in virtue, in votre geis. I'm killing the language, I'm sorry.
What language is it?
French. It's Baudelaire. Beauty's everywhere, Baudelaire. I went another way. Never got to know you in the universe of poets. We'd nod. You who read with Mingus on bass would nod to anyone if you were in the mood. It was your street because you loved it, lived without fear. You who hustled picnic baskets in the snow, made skyscrapers of the heart with escalators that went down to a rock-bottom basement where we all could meet to wade in the waters of soul and sun. I give you color, you said with pen and brush. And you did, till you took the train out of town. It's the dead. Goddamn dead. It's the dead that rule the world. That's my best Jack Michelin.
Yeah, very good.
So there were two things that I heard before the reading today that said I should read this poem. I don't know why, but I'm going to do it. This was the first book that Torian Horn Press published. It was an anthology, and in 1974, we had a big festival. The Poets Coalition, which was in San Francisco then, Carol Lee was one of the founders of that. We had a week-long festival that went all the way all over San Francisco, and we read on buses, and we read on ferries, and cable cars, everything. We walked through the business district and walked on every corner and read on every corner. Anyway, so this was one of the poems I was reading then. So, The Moth. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was moving over the face of the waters, and God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw the light was good, and God separated the light from darkness. Then God created the moth, and the moth was flying in darkness, and the moth saw the light. And the moth saw the light was good. "Good God Almighty," said the moth, and made a beeline to the light. The moth smashed against the light. Plink was the sound of the moth's face crashing against the light. The sound was repeated. Plink. And again, blink. And the moth was dizzy, and the light was good, and the moth continued to smash his face. The moth fell into the face of the void and died in darkness. My first room. I remember my first room. The walls were knotty pine. I don't remember how long it took me to change the eyes looking at me in the dark like ghosts to those eyes looking out for me. I was 3. I remember we moved into the new house when I was 4. This first house, not too far from the new house, closer to the quarry, which we called the rock crusher. I remember I was playing with plastic soldiers. It starts early. Under the windows in my first room that faced the rock crusher, there was a boom, and it seemed it took a while. I could feel the air around me expand. I was aware something else would happen. It seemed familiar, though I did not react. The window shattered, the glass that let the sunshine in, which demarcated inside and outside, flying all over my first room. Then my mother was at the door. I remember. I had never seen her eyes look like that. "Are you all right? Are you all right?" I was excited. I didn't know how I knew it would happen. My mother picked me up. It's a miracle. I remember that was the first time I knew I would never forget. I haven't read this before. So I wrote it a few years, 10 years ago. But it echoes Gail. And it's called Tahlequah. And it's, with thanks to Gail, it's for Lee Francis, Carol Lee Sanchez, and Paula Gunn Allen. Got the call. Lee said, "Come to Oklahoma." I flew through Dallas to Tulsa, drove by armadillos to Tahlequah, where the Trail of Tears ended. Lee said, "Come, dance, listen, the drums, the singing." I could not say no. I let go the unconscious strands of ego. It wasn't about right or wrong. I was in my body. I was not alone. I was in Tahlequah, where the Trail of Tears ended. I circled behind Lee and Mary. The drum was and was not the same drum I heard at other powwows. This was a two-step, not the fancy dancing of my dreams. My body, clumsy as this poem completes, begins the circle that spirit drew. This is from The Nile to the Milky Way. It's a poem I did on Orion. This one is for David Meltzer. It has a quote in the front from Charles Olson's, "Man's splendor is a question of which birth." The story has rained upon our unconscious mind, whether we choose to believe it or not. The dream comes with its universe, uni being the Finnish word for dream. So I like that.
Is that right? Does it have the same meaning for us?
I don't know.
Oneness or something like that?
Yeah. Well, that would be part of ours, but yeah, but I was surprised. I was looking through all the dictionaries I had, and I found out that uni was a dream, and so yeah, it would be a oneness. The dream comes with its universe, like the flooding of the Nile, and each flood, its variations, whether spiritual, biological, astronomical, psychological, and or political, each must touch the body of man, woman, either building it, stretching it, molding, breaking, or killing it. We must feed each other. We are all other, not the quick advertisement we are selling. We must prepare for the next flood. It will come. Dig your ditches soon enough. Dig them deep, far, and wide enough to handle the next inundation. Remember to turn the soil, open the earth, for the story moves us forward, or we do not move forward. We know it is made up with words we use every day and dreams we have dreamt, whether we remember them or not, and that somewhere the word for our dream is but one letter away from becoming comfort, salvation, peace. The right combination of our conscious blood, sweat, and laughter, tears like the flood are a gift, can change this word into the one we think is better or richer or true. And I've been all over the place, and I'm going to end. Huh?
What was your inspiration for that poem? Did the word?
The Orion, the myth of Orion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which is what?
Well, Orion was a hunter, and he went to this island, and he fell in love with the king's daughter, and the king said, "You can have my daughter if you get rid of all the animals on the island." And so Orion did that, and then the king said, "I don't think you did that." And he wouldn't give his daughter to Orion, so Orion raped her. The king knocked out his eyes, and Orion was then told that he could get his eyesight back if he made love to the Queen of Dawn. And so he spent the rest of his life trying to find the Queen of Dawn, and he did.
How do you feel that connection yourself, personally, inside?
I feel it's like the drama we're living right now, that we're killing everything around
Very
us.
violent, yeah.
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 And that these are our ancestors telling us what to do and how to get back to being who we are.
Well, I always wonder what we mean when we say ancestor.
Of those who came before, yeah.
See, maybe it's,
Do you have another poem to read?
Yeah, I have one more poem. Okay. So I've been all over this in this reading, so I apologize for that. Usually I'm a little bit more focused, but this one is about my grandfather. My grandfather was a seaman. He went up and down the coast. Before they had logging trucks, they had logging ships, and my grandfather was a logging ship captain. And he got tired of that, and maybe because the war was about to happen, he got a job taking Oakland's garbage out to the Farallon Islands. And one time, 2 weeks after Pearl Harbor, he was coming back, and he saw a periscope, and he said, "That's weird." And he took his garbage scow and rammed the periscope, and he sunk a ship. The next day they found a torpedo in Bolinas Lagoon, and they told, the Navy said it didn't happen, he's imagining it, and he fought for it, and finally an insurance guy, because his boss or the city of Oakland wanted to get insurance on the boat because there was a hole in it. And he said his explanation is the only one that works. And so the Oakland Tribune had a second page story on him in February or so, but that happened in December. So anyway, this is Sea Legs. My grandfather, on his knees, lost on the roof above the sauna. The sea captain doesn't see the rocks along the coast of this adventure. I don't know how my father was able to get him down. I wasn't there. My father told me my grandfather wouldn't get in the ambulance 3 years before when he had a stroke, holding himself up with a pitchfork, its threat. He said, "No, it's not my time." He was used to the ocean of consciousness rising and falling. He had sea legs from the ocean's storms. He shifted to the pitchfork, Triton, to steady himself through his body's storm. 2. Alone. He was alone and working. Work is the most important thing. He worked 18 hours a day in his used lumber yard, in his garden, his ranch, into his mid-80s. He had no fingerprints. He had given the earth his identity. A hollyhock in the garden next to the steps to his back door. "I'm Flora." He couldn't believe his ears. He didn't hear well, but it was plain. "You are the kindest man in the world." I know it's hard to believe, he repeated this story for his last 6 or 7 years, even after his stroke, when he remembered it, and it never changed. 3. I don't know how I knew when I left him after a visit. Everything seemed okay. He no longer used the pitchfork, but I knew under my breath, I said goodbye. I wished him well. I didn't know why. The next time, he said, "You look familiar, but I don't know your name. It's the same as yours." As if that's a help. My parents honored his wish to live at home, next door. Once I visited, he was playing solitaire in his kitchen amid chickens and sheep. The smell. "It's getting too cold to feed them. We're all warmer here." A few months later, my grandfather, on his knees, lost on the roof above the sauna. My father took my grandfather to the rest home that day with no resistance. The next day, it was a quiet storm. His sea legs were all he needed. Thank you.
Do you want something to perch on while you read?
You know what? I'm just gonna use that bench to put my stuff on.
Okay.
And you're gonna have to bring that down because I'm like short.
Do you want a stool of some sort though? Because we have various possibilities.
Give me a stool and you can see what happens.
Bring some.
But I don't know.
Yeah, that one. I'll grab this one.
There's no really. I know. That's the hard part. Come on. Give him my hand. Oh no, but there's
But
this.
thank you, Bill.
This is
That was
good.
great.
This is good.
50
is
years,
good.
huh?
Yeah.
50 years. What's up?
Woohoo!
Can you make it around there?
Did it.
All right. So this might be a decent height.
Oh, that's actually not bad. Oh, far out. Yay.
Yeah, and we'll take this
And
down
this
a
is,
bit.
yeah. Bring it up.
You don't have to get real close
I'm not
to
that
it. so-
short.
Yeah, I know, but you don't have to get close to it. And if we get it too high, then it's in front of your face and we can't see you so
Okay.
well.
Okay.
You think you will?
I might. Who
Perch a
knows?
bit?
I might
Okay.
perch. I might perch. Bill, I love the poem about your grandpa. I always tell you that. I just love that poem. There's another one that you've read about your grandfather. And I never heard about the periscope. Damn. That's trippy shit. See, it's kind of perfect. I don't know if it,
A little further down to when you are sitting.
oh, I could move up.
No, I mean just down.
God, you
so
guys
that
are
it
just
doesn't-
too cool. You're making me
We wanna
comfortable and
see you.
everything. Okay.
You're going to be picked up by.
Well, I used to always start reading a poem about my kids. I should have invited Mateo. I thought about it. That's her kid. Yeah. So I always used to start because it grounded me. It made it easy for me to sit. And Bill published this. He believed in me. She's making bread using a recipe from a cookbook that used to belong to her great-grandmother. Washing greens in the sink for Sunday dinner. She's building a bridge, asking her ancestors for guidance, learning the old ways. She wears old suits from the 40s that her grandmother wore in college, shirts from the 70s. She's mixing it up, cross-pollinating, finding her own way, moving within herself. She has closed the door on childhood and reached for an apple on the highest branch. I watch from a distance. The beginning of a new adventure, and a new dawn awaits her footsteps. She has begun to change her form, gracefully rising like the bread in the bowl, filling the room. She stands at the foot of my bed, looks at me, and I at her. We are seeing each other with new eyes. She is studying my gaze. I am moving within my skin, shifting the position of my legs, telling her what I know to be truth. She is growing beyond the frame, moving in another orbit. I am stepping back, taking in the dimensions, not telling, not asking, listening, hearing, feeling air take shape, find a new form. She is pushing gently, trying to find. Oh boy. The way to tell me she is moving in new ways. Feeling the smallness of her room, wanting to stretch and move beyond the limits she has lived in. She's trying to find the way to say, I need space. This is like a small cage, and I've grown beyond the confines of your hopes and dreams. I've moved beyond your struggles and agreements. I've imagined a different future. The bread rises in the bowl, and she is ready to knead it again, ready to leave, ready to flow, ready to rise, ready to go. I was looking through my work, and boy, do I have a shit ton of work. And so I was looking for it, and I found all these older pieces. So you're going to get some of that. Eulogies, allies. She was out walking, calling the moon. He was one of her oldest allies. And in the dark time, she knew that they would spin stories into yarn, and that yarn would be the substance of dreams. Now this is true, guys. Ring forts. Her eyes were bright with winter's light, and all her words spoke of the Aran Islands. She's on her belly, inching forward, nose and eyes looking down hundreds of feet, and I'm pressed into the wall, grabbing handfuls of stone. I lean out, peering at the ocean below, watching the waves crash against the cliffs, and in the mist, something enters, some elemental joy, and I feel at home, comforted in this place older than America. We were in Ireland, and the ring forts, I really don't know the history of that, but the ocean is 100 feet down. And they told us that somebody got swept off just the week before. And my daughter's on her belly because she wants to see the edge. And I'm freaking out. And I'm holding onto the ring fort just saying, okay, Lord, let me. And all of a sudden this energy bubbled up. And I was all better. I was all better. But people got down on their. They did what she was doing. They thought it was cool. They wanted to see the edge too. I was like. Seal song. Where aurora rises, morning bursts forth, facets of jewels echo the multi-hued light, shades of chalcedony awash in the limitless sea, staining winter with thoughts of spring, pushing past drifts, tides cannot mourn or harbor resentments. We scan the waves for language, feeling the weight of the restless herd. He picks the brightest words for a bouquet, notices shells and a few cracked sand dollars strewn across the beach. It is a pleasant morning, open to possibility. Creamy foam washes over his wriggling toes. She lifts the shell to her heart and dissolves. He turns, sees her silken slip of eternal blue like froth on the waves, watches the pearls she was wearing fall one at a time onto the sandy floor. He follows the trail, slips his skin, returns to the sea, dives beneath the waves, scenting where she has gone. They float, one under the other. She measures distance with each breath. Drawn to his company, she places her secrets in the coil of his spine, grows fur to match his coat, wraps herself in his furred warmth, sings the seal song, shedding all traces of her past. Losing herself in his chorus, this change will push her farthest from the shore. And this is it's called Blue Collar Buddha Trilogy, and it's for K.L. Hill, but I'm only going to read one of the three. He rises at 7 a.m. He's been listening to his wife's breathing for the last half hour, listening to snatches of an old melody that he heard in 1957, thinking about the waterfront, remembering San Francisco in the 50s, remembering walking those hills, the smell of the sea, the way the cool wind would cover him like a memory, and he'd go up to his room and practice playing scales for hours, feeling his fingers running up and down the fretboard, but that was then. Now he feels age creeping into him, knowing the limits of a man well into midlife. But inside that place that no one can touch, the place where there is only music and memory, he still feels 20 and on the verge of a great adventure. He still hears the tapping of the heels on the floorboards as the dancers click and sway, turning and turning as he plays flamenco, and the music swirls, rushes, teases, and his fingers find the notes effortlessly. There is the swirl of her red dress, the toss of her black curls, the smolder of her eyes, and she turns and turns, flashing like flicks of flame, and then there is nothing but the sound of the castanets and her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. Every now and then you get a poet that we write, man. But you get a poet that everything they say goes into your heart, and you're just like, how did I live without that? Well, K.L. Hill, which probably you remember, and Jerry may remember, his stories were like, his poems were like stories, and he had a certain cadence when he read, and he still lives in my heart. It's just, what can I tell you?
Did we ever meet his family? Did they ever?
Yes, yeah, you met his wife and his kids and his grandkids. Sorry, I'm acting. No comment. Okay. Yeah. Monk under the open sky. He is closer to 60 now than 25. With less teeth than before. He's made his home in the woods and parks up and down Highway 1. Never asked nobody for a handout. Eyes a little sadder than they used to be. And it's a wonder he's still alive. Tonight I saw him, head shaved, hatless, dressed in black, his mala around his neck, an urban monk with his sleeping bag at his feet, his colorful Tibetan jacket hanging on the fence as he prepared to layer himself against the cold. I asked if he was working still. He said no. His job has ended this month, but he assured me he was okay, doing all right. It is code between us. He wouldn't ask, and I wouldn't let him. It is not about pride. There is just an understanding. Before he always asked about Abel, then I had to tell him he was gone, dead like so many. I told him I saw his ex the day before. And I ran into Guy, the flower man, and he gave me armloads of roses for Abel's room. It is about connections and the circles we dance in. There's more, but my fingers just don't know how to turn pages. He says, when I see you now, I see you, and you've come into your own. Last night, I introduced him to my daughter, told him this is Abel's goddaughter. Hers was a baptism of love. He mumbled something about virgin births. I couldn't help laughing, thinking about Mary and her alabaster jar. When my kids were small, we had a shop in the Hay for a long time, for 45 years. And they met everybody. They met a little of this and a little of that. But I never turned the people away. And my kids just learned to be in a variety of people's company and be okay with that. Right, Nova? All right. Nothing like pulling your daughter into it. Well, I gave you old stuff. I guess I'll give you a few new pieces. Beware of Maya. My wants have their own zip code. They secret away catalogs when they think no one's looking. They cruise over to eBay and check on things they are interested in. They have been known to bid on things and argue with the seller about the price, and then sometimes they are silent, like from exhaustion. It's hard to keep up. There are Chinese antiques one day, Navajo jewelry another, ikat from Mexico and Indonesia, and Syrian kaftans. They natter on at night when I'm dreaming, talking about indigo cloth from Bamako or old Japanese netsukes that are getting harder to find. One loves birds and the other books. And still another one craves art and smiles knowingly if someone mentions Buddhas from Nepal and embroidered cloth from Rajasthan. These desires are nuts, man. Only the most beautiful will do. Tooled leather from Mexico, snakeskin belts, vintage dresses, cowboy boots, and old silk velvet. They're not fixed in their notions of what will satisfy them. They claim religion one day and argue the finer points of scripture and prayer. And my wants sift through old art magazines, underlining passages in the AA Big Book. And they tell fantastic stories about, somehow, never loses the thread of the conversation. One remarks on the tone of a particular Tibetan belle, and the other one is nearly lethal in her shopping. But she did talk about giving up cashmere for Lent. So what's the time, guys? Tell me. Tell me.
Yeah, read whatever you want. Yeah.
Oh, whatever I want. Okay, let's see what I got. Oh, okay. 4 out. You got water? Water's all I need, man. I can go. Okay. Counting again. It was a space between the lines, a way to keep the rhythm as she pressed her fingers down to the fretboard. 1 and 2, 2 and 3. And there was time, and there was hope, stashing beads of light and prayer and lines from old remembered songs from her father's 78s, music in ink or daily small victories. It is a moment when the mask falls completely away. This joy, easy as the breath, inviting him to count with her and snuggle down to the breath and listen. As her fingers flew a bit closer to that golden light that stirs the heart. At 60, I picked up the bass. 62, 60, I don't know. Because I didn't want to be one of these old farts who's always whining about the young people. But for the first 5 or 6 years, I was scared shitless. Because you got to press your fingers down to the fret, and it's hard, and the strings are hard. But now, last week I played 4 Days Gone, Steve Still's Buffalo Springfield song. I played Leon Russell's Song for You. Played a Willie Nelson song. So I can play without fear. And I think the fear, I always blame the fear on the Catholic shit. And I always blame the fear on that. But the fear's gone. And so I find myself tapping my feet when I read, like keeping time. The lesson. History leaves hearts rusted. Memories unravel like broken dancers. Add different worlds. Subtract distance. swallow down hard, broken teeth, broken hearts, salt tears, twig fingers, point the route home. Ferry to Alcatraz. The rocking of the ferry to Alcatraz draws water from the well of history. Some friends in a drum circle. A drummer wearing a ribbon shirt reminds me of the sky or a winter's chill. Another drummer's voice calls to me across time. My people don't speak of the dust of Oklahoma, but they remind me of gatherings and home and the squeak of a porch swing. Western Edition Memories.
Yeah, I just watched that. You ever seen that PBS thing about the Fillmore?
Of course.
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
Of course. Okay, now you made me do it. Shit, I wasn't gonna do it. You know which one. You know which one. Yeah. I wasn't gonna do it. Because when I grew up, going to the Fillmore was like going to heaven.
Yeah.
People were dressed up. The men had those fine suits. The ladies had their hair all done up. My mother would take me to Melrose Records. And in those days, my first Elvis Presley blue suede shoes was a 78. Okay, I'm old. It's 78. And then we would go to the bowling alley, and there was trophies downstairs that her and my dad had gotten from the bowling league. The Fillmore was just beautiful. And then they fucked it up. They destroyed it. The houses were on bricks. They destroyed it. And here's urban renewal. But the real deal was, now, and this trips me out and blows me away, they wanted the blacks to go back to the South. Now, why the fuck would you go back to the South where you could be lynched?
Why not?
Okay, church, cool your jets. But they didn't expect us to stay. And what they don't like to remind us of is the Fillmore was a Jewish neighborhood. Then it became a Japanese neighborhood. And then they interred the fucking Japanese because what did they want? They wanted their land. They might tell you other shit, but they wanted their land. Because the Japanese had some of the best farming land all through Stockton. Okay, I'll shut up. Pisses me off, though. It pisses me off because...
No, but the Fillmore was black removal. That's what it was.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, they call it urban renewal, but we know exactly what the fuck it was. Oh, sorry. There's no kids here. My granddaughter's not here to go, Grandma! Okay, Bill, you know which one it is. There have been sightings of angels, often glimpsed in the half-dark, rescuing some soul when he has cashed in all his chips and is just blowing that one note that threatens to break into something special. There are moments when Michael the Archangel has been seen wings back, tapping his fingers, lingering over Beale Street, lingering over someone with a clarinet who's playing dragon tunes. And he's there to urge him on, to encourage him to the edge and on into ecstasy, lost in the glory of just blowing because it feels so damn good. And every Christmas, and often in the fall when it would get cold and crisp outside, Mahalia Jackson could be heard closing up the stud down on Folsom, singing and shouting, hallelujah, singing and shouting, and those boys, soon to be men, heard it and felt it as Last Call was heard one more time. Angels have been seen in midday in the Fillmore when it was all black. No. It hadn't stopped being colored yet. Men with their straw hats and fine tan leather shoes and suits so crisp, they almost shouted at you. The creases were that sharp. There was an angel down there, Jack. Sometimes she'd be coming out the beauty parlor, hair all done up in a press and curl, ready for Saturday night. Or maybe just going to the bowling alley where she'd meet the girls hanging out for the evening. And many is the night that some poor fool spent his rent money at the Club Long Island, down on 3rd Street. These angels have often been seen in broad daylight, wearing red lipstick, red nails, and dressed to the nines. and the girl knew she was looking good. Billy used to sing right over there on Fillmore at the Plantation Club, and she could make you break down. There were clubs up and down the street, house parties with chili and crackers and home brew, dip and potato chips, and a little girl who would watch the grown-ups get silly. They'd throw a nickel, a dime, or a quarter her way, and a quarter in those days was some big money. It could buy you 5 candy bars or a Coke and a bag of chips. These angel sightings got less and less, but sometimes when the music was, well, you know, it could take you higher than weed, higher than booze, higher than. The music could take you there. There'd be Carlos Santana, head back, eyes closed, just playing the hell out of that guitar. And you'd look up. There'd be tears. Or Janice would shout, "Baby, baby, 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 welcome back home." Or Jimmy would play your spine as Voodoo Child cooked. Then there was a day Harvey Milk and Moscone got shot. So many of us took to the streets that night. We marched from Castro Street to City Hall. Joan Baez sang, and I could swear, over my shoulder, away to the rear, a bit of wing. Just the other day, I was listening to Minnie Riperton, and I felt a tear escape down my cheek. As I reached up to wipe it away, if not 6 feet at the foot of the dining room table, an angel seemed to just blur on the edge of my vision. As my head hit the pillow, just before I said goodnight to my children, I heard a voice as plain as day. Must have been something or someone reminding me to pray. When we, what, Nova? Oh, mic drop. In '92, when we first started going to the readings, because before that we went to a few in the Haight. Will Dodger, lived with us, and we would literally write poems and read them to each other as soon as we finished, you know. So, time. I love you. I love you. So let's see if I can find it, because this must have been a book that has no stickers in it that says anything. So I have to, let's see if I can find it. All right, I have to go to the, what do you call it? 56. So I wrote this poem, and I went out and read it to Dodger. It's called Bebop Angel. There are saints picking out rotting flesh from their teeth, ambling down highways of lost experience, seeing in the clouds the hand of God. And ever watchful for strange weather patterns, they are beating down eternity with golden arms. And silence follows them like red wine. I see you in my dreams, talking wild and fanciful. You've had miles of visions, blue horns with lips of thin ice. Darkness was your virtue. Darkness followed you, never being able to extinguish that light. I see you still, walking through corridors of pain, pushing past the wreckage, the dealer of sharp images and rancid smells. A child finds you a holy angel, a whispering saint. You could deluge us with memories, sainthood, New Orleans, gates of fire, leading to heaven, right across the tracks from 3 o'clock morning jam sessions, with other daddies, cool as white lightning was hot. You shipped out on pale mornings, leaned into the wind that walked pushing you forward. You'd fold, dry up and float away. Like the rushing wind, you assaulted each step like you had to be going somewhere special. And sweetness never darkened your door. But there were women with dreams of their own, birthing pain, misery, blues, as well as joy, and wine was cheap. That vino, that bottle, stained red fingers, stained blue lips, and Red Mountain was 75 cents a quart. And it left many heads cracked open, letting in light, hearing the voice of the Creator through your heart. And you just stumbled into darkness, letting the light go out for a while. And the last time I saw you, you had boarded the number 7 bus, going nowhere fast, but in a hurry. You asked the bus driver for directions. His disdain was evident. Your torn coat, your disheveled look, yeah, he thought he knew who you were. He thought he had seen it all. Jaded. A jaded black man. Another jaded black man who knew too much to care so little. Getting up as I got off the bus, getting up to tell him, man, that cat was a poet. A North Beach original. Man, have some respect. And he blew smoke out of those jagged lips. He blew smoke. All that cool knowing, and he had nothing to say. Envy had twisted his heart. Lust for the dollar had frozen his soul. He didn't even get what the blues was saying. Never dug the jazz notes from hell or heard a 3-part harmony sung by some boys on a street corner late at night. No, he had never dug the word that made suffering seem regal. The word his mama shouted as he charged into the world already full of himself. No, he had never dug the word. And such treachery can only be disguised for so long. He was a poet, man. He said, all I see is a drunken old man. He said, all I see. I stopped him cold. I stopped him with words. That's Bob Kaufman. Bob Kaufman. Bob Kaufman. Man, that's part of your history and you don't even know it. And I got off the bus thinking about the word, the light, and music, thinking about God, and wonder, would we know him this time? Would we see her crossing the streets if she were dressed in rags? Would we see her? Would we see her this time? This time. This time. Sometimes I would be on Grant Street late at night, and Bob would be out of it. He would be out of his mind. And then be other times, and he was just totally present. Like when he got on that bus, he was totally present.
Last time I saw him, he was on the bus going to the hospital. I said, do you need any money? He said, no, you got a cigarette, right? I said, no, I don't. I told the whole bus, I said, this guy's one of your great poets.
Yeah.
And he went to the hospital. He was in an oxygen tank trying to get one of his friends to give him a cigarette.
I saw that a lot at the VA when I would go with my friend who was dying of AIDS. We'd be going to the VA, and these old guys would be out there smoking with their oxygen tanks on the back of their wheelchair. Western Edition memories. Listen. Sometimes stories are like a whisper of some old blues song you heard when you were a kid, and you tap your foot as soon as the first notes sound. We are like birds who have the pattern of flight sewn in our minds. No need to remember, it's all laid out like a grid, and all you gotta do is place yourself inside those memories. Stories have a way of telling themselves, and you hear it in the voice of the teller. When Nana got here in the 40s, she stayed in a rooming house with Papa Al. The woman who owned the place said she didn't rent to Okies because they were nasty, but they could have the room for the night. Nana needed to cook a meal, but the kitchen was so dirty she didn't know where to start. So she cleaned that kitchen, and her and Papa Al had dinner and then went off to bed. Next morning, the owner of the rooming house asked Nana, "Did you clean that kitchen?" Nana said, "Yes, ma'am." The woman stared at Nana for quite a while, then said, "The room is 42 for the month." The Western Addition was something back in those days. Oklahoma to Oakland on Southern Pacific, then the ferry to San Francisco. Everyone was happy just to be out of the South. Those old majestic trains, dreams traveled on those trains. The colored people were beautiful, gold wrapped around teeth, big smiles, and working wherever they could. Papa Al worked at Southern Pacific. Nana got hired at a downtown hotel. The old white man who hired her said, "Keep your mouth shut. We don't hire colored people, but you can pass for Filipino if you don't talk." She lasted a day. That Okie wine was just a bit too much for him. She had pride and knew she could not sell herself short, not even for some decent money. Still, she went to work and picked up some odd jobs. Finally found a job at the shipyard, and she sent for her daughter. And Mama finished school at Girls High. So poetry and history and music, for me, they're all intertwined. It's like I was raised Catholic, but you know what my sacrament is? Music and art. Those are the only sacraments worth anything, as far as I'm concerned. So, okay, Eric, tell me. One more? What are you saying, gentlemen?
At least one more.
What are you saying? You're not doing anything but shaking your head. Talk to me. Okay.
Let's say one more.
At least one more.
Okay.
One more.
All right. This one seems.
More.
Okay, Tom. I know you're here somewhere. I don't see you, but I know you're there somewhere. You want a long one or a short one? You're getting a long one. Could you hand me my water, Novi? It's under my chair. Thank you. You'd think at nearly 72 I'd know where my mouth was. Love magnet for Aurora. It's my other daughter. Over and over again, she tells me that she loves me. It becomes a chant that keeps my spirit earthbound, a blanket that keeps me warm, a tool that tightens the worn-out hinges of my heart. She knows my dreams have no borders, feels the longing in me to give up everything, to flee from all I know, to leave this land of time and limits. She has heard the drum, knows that they call me skyward, seen the loosening of my limbs, caught sight of the spark shooting from my fingertips, witnessed my feet leaving the ground, knows the power of the dance. Fears that intent alone will give me wings, sweeping me far away from her grasping fingers. She is a fierce lover. Maybe she's seen too much devastation, known loss too intimately, charged its borders yet been unable to make the crossing. So she sails out words like a silver lariat that becomes a talisman, piercing my heart, latching onto my soul. At other times I've seen her become small, then stretching out, fill a room with her being, sending out wave after wave of energy that massages the heart, letting everyone present know this is a powerful act of love. In the hospital, she took her grandma's hand, looked into her eyes, and in a small, still voice said, "I love you, Grandma." And Grandma reached out, willing herself back from her death dreams, choosing to not let go of her bone bag just then, choosing to not sail away with the bird people who would carry her soul on their black barge to the other side. Grandma came back from her intimate reverie with her dead to say, "I love you too, baby. I also saw her work this love magic on her godfather when he was on his deathbed. As she sat at his side, she reached over, took his hand, surrounded him in the rosy glow of her love. She put his hand to her cheek, held him for a moment, looked deep into his eyes, and he stared back. Eyes ablaze, like he knew this child cared deeply for him, loved him completely with all of her heart. And he echoed her silent communication, moving his lips to form the words she most needed to hear. I love you. And she shimmered and shined, channeling the rainbow to protect him, and gave him strength. She showered him with amber light as she continued to look at him, and again she sent out her voice saying, I love you. I love you. I love you. Now, I was going to read this one, but I knew I had to read you that one, but my voice is going. So this poem is as relevant today as it was in 1999, and then I will say goodbye. I heard that, Tom. Her heart is a radio. Its frequency is need. There are no radio-free Europe signs on the buses anymore. No late-night commercials, no blonde teenagers with wistful faces listening with heads inclined to hear the truth. Her body is a talk show. She's explored reason with the media, been interviewed, seen pop psychologists who taught her how to open up and release. Her eyes are antennae that cry Somalia tears. She wrapped her long arms around herself. She tried to hug away the pain. Her breath is a desert wind, dry leaves parched by the sun. Small sand lizards flicked out, wish for her to continue. Her heart is a radio. Its frequency is need. She tuned herself to pain, moving past harmony, past joy, moving right on down to that last station, the one that comes in late at night, the one that caused her to explore new horizons. Her skin is newsprint, underlined sentences highlighting her blues and the good days. Her fingertips reach for books that will trace the beginning, explain this history she's making. Her heart is a radio. She tuned herself to misery, feeding herself with slices of tragedies, spoonfuls of murder and who died on Thursday. Her soul is a telegraph machine. She's up all night waiting for a wire that will tell her who's making policy and how it will impact small foreign countries years from now. Her eyes are cameras, and the lenses are open to let in the light. The shutter speed is on rapid fire. She's photographing the violence in South Central, the rapes in Bosnia, the sacking and looting of Arab villages by Muslim fanatics, the racism of America. Her heart is a radio, tuned to an all-night talk show where acid is served up as the truth. And her fingertips are minefields. She's gonna blow us all away.
Okie dokie.
Artichoke.
All right. Well, thanks, Bill Vartnaw and Gail Mitchell. Thank you so much. This is very good. Yeah.
All right. We'll take a little break and thank you so much.
Can you help me down?
We needed that. Yeah, for sure. So you just want to
So my daughter doesn't have to come. I can
Yeah,
fit.
leave that. Get to that. You can put a hand
Oh, far
in
out.
that too
Yeah.
as well.
The knees don't work like they did.
That's the way. That's the way. Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So this is the first part of the evening. And yeah, there's a small honorarium we can give the poets, but if you can supplement that with a few bucks out of your pocket, that's a nice way to show your appreciation for a couple lives in poetry that we couldn't do without. So this is pretty sweet because this takes us back to the beginning of the store, takes us back to Jerry. Jerry's about to make tracks out of here. Yeah, so Bill came here 50 years ago. Jerry came here, I don't know, 70-something years ago, and is about to cut out. So that pretty much is the sum total of my knowledge of San Francisco.
Why?
Time to move on.
Yeah, time to move on. Yeah.
Permanently or how long?
I'll let you know.
There you go. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. So we can talk about all that on the break. So thank you for being here. There'll be an open mic shortly. Ah, terrific. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, how cool.
Wow.
20 years ago,
You saw it.
we had the 30th anniversary of the press.
Okay.
We had QR on the phone.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember that. Okay. Okay.
That was when I learned that he doesn't tell me he can't make it. He just says, I'll try. And so then I learned.
Take what you get.
I've been softball and that was my knee, so
Yeah, all of you went back to pretty much the earliest couple of years of this stuff.
Yeah, they usually start about 7.
Yeah, during the wandering off, it's going to be, as it should be. We should be all free to move. Right?
Yeah. I didn't want to leave San Francisco, but
Well, there's also the possibility of staying.
yeah.
When did you actually make your shift?
25 years ago. So,
Right,
yeah,
right,
97,
right, right.
98, 98.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know the one I keep
Bridget and I wanted to move in together,
the one I'm on.
So,
and all the
where were you
places
both? Yeah.
that would fit us are 3 or 4 times what we collectively paid.
And that's amazing, right? You got 2 places.
Yeah.
And all you want to do was get one place. It's like 3 or 4 castles. So where were you each living?
I was living downtown, she was living on 46th Avenue.
Hard enough to like exploit other people in housing, and I'm like, oh,
It was
okay.
a great evocation of the early and mid 70s.
That's
I
why.
thought your Michelin invitation
Ah.
was
Yeah. I have used real estate agents before.
It's funny because the first big reading thing I featured was with Jack at the spaghetti factory. And I didn't realize what an enormous honor it was. I
They see
had
no
a
problem
kid in 72.
with like a person owning multiple properties
I know you were here
renting
before
those
me.
out to
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So that
So
those
you were,
properties
but you
never
were
get to
a
be developed.
California guy?
Yeah,
Was your grandfather?
It was really good after like
Did you read it?
and there were no places to read in that whole area.
I would change that.
It was in the 70s, ridiculous. 7 everyday dessert.
Yeah.
We just did
They're like, oh,
we did like jazz was in the 60s, like after hours clubs. Endless.
they want to like,
It was like, wow.
so we can make all this money.
What happened?
Yeah, they made some money during
Got here in '77. It was punk rock. It's
like that was a-
you know, I was buying little magazines.
That was the one time.
Yeah, there's still like
I
those were the days.
hotels cheap. Remember the hotel. Now, many areas, areas are not getting the revenue they need. And they're like, oh crap, what do I do with this property? Well, you could
Well,
not own
you know,
it.
the Reagan, the end of funding for arts really started boom like that. Because I lived in the house with Matt Schwartz, who was getting a nice stipend from the state to be prison workshop forcing. You know, can you imagine that now? Some random guy getting a regular stipend to a prison workshop? Probably not.
You ever have a conversation?
He used to drive me up there.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great.
Like they all knew the club Long Island, you know, and they were like so
It's a very like
excited.
bizarre
Space
thing.
they all knew like
When I talk to people,
oh my god,
So who's living across the street?
and my dad, I think my dad
Paul living across
Long Island, and that's why I knew about it.
Curly Sanchez.
They don't.
Shirley Sanchez, directly across from Lee Francis, 2 doors down from Lee Francis was Paul Francis.
So what street is that?
I was up near like
Okay.
Close to Jerry's, your wife's house in Lee.
Yeah.
Very big hug. I'm sorry.
Okay, sweetie. I know, you gotta go home.
Well, it's great that the poem on the page is in the binding of these books. Don't go away, like everything else people want.
so like close to there about that very thing.
You know,
It's
I
called
don't know.
one of
There's no
the
context because
not
in
in this
school,
one.
you started making books.
Well, yeah, well,
That one
you get a chance to,
precious today.
it's addressing the exact thing you're talking about. It's called
You know,
one of everything.
Yes.
He is, yes,
Good job, Mr. West.
Paul used to
Well, it's about, yeah, yeah.
sell his
It's about everybody.
he drove cab.
Everybody
And he
being
just
satisfied.
have a pile of books every night, sell his books out of the cab.
Yeah.
I'm taking my daughter for
I had that. Bye-bye, thank you. Bye-bye.
The other
If
one's
you're
a
a small
phone.
person,
The one
you go to
who's
smaller places, some of them larger, and
you
you
only
gain
have
weight,
1,
then
2,
you have
3,
a larger
4.
place.
Easy.
B plus,
Huh?
B Jerry and 3.
Well, you're good,
That's
so.
good to get all these starts.
It's just funny you said that.
You're pretty on top.
Let's take it.
It's not realistic, but it's the idea was just that, you know.
Yeah, I thought it was really, I
Yeah, we
appreciated you
definitely-
going back
Now
and
she's like
kind of revisiting some of the historical figures.
Farmer 42.
Very well done.
Babies are
Far away from the idea
You know,
of
Carolina, the first poem too was very,
Yeah, it's
over time becomes more profound. I
you know what I
think
did?
indigenous
Culture.
culture.
one was going to college,
Actual
Part
history
of the culture.
of the
No,
early 20th
so we're on
century.
Santa Cruz.
Altogether,
No,
it's
we're
a
out.
sudden
The grandiose idea of like homes and cars.
just appreciation
Yeah.
of who we are,
The
where
problem
we
is
come
that
from.
Rick Todd,
stuff started becoming unaffordable.
And I think of all this education, all
Affordable to
this
a degree.
kind of job,
But now it's unaffordable.
It's always nice to have
People who are at the head of it just rather than
return to the days of just,
you've made it this way.
Right. Well, I saw this, there's a documentary
your
about
piece,
San Francisco.
Oh, yeah.
You read that?
Fighting for angels.
It's about it's actually
it's geopolitical moments is always this sort of flux. Global warming, of course, is like the drama of like these last few years of heat. Like even like the last few days, it's beautiful. I thought, what if this were like if it were going to be this way at midnight every night going forward? But I mean, Phoenix had I think 10 days and the low never went over 85. Those are the types of things that have apocalyptic thoughts just walking around.
My cousin moved outside of Phoenix.
And he said it's inevitable.
She was drinking iced
Yeah,
tea.
exactly.
She was drinking iced tea so
That's what
much.
he said, and I have a lot of respect for Jerry.
Yeah.
Her
heart started. So she started drinking water instead, and it went down a little bit. But she just, she was not prepared. She grew up and lived all her life in Sonoma County.
Yeah, not a good preparation for
Like,
But that's what's scary too, because all the geographical terrains assume certain things. You really cannot rely, you assume anything.
say like,
No.
well, people are gonna make choices and eventually
We have a couple of days on the islands during the summer,
it's like,
and
okay,
it was
but
basically 80-70 territory, and now we're up in the hundreds.
tech people, like, it's become a class thing.
So what I
If
do
you
is
don't
I
own, if you haven't owned a home for a long time, as a person right now, like buying a home,
Yeah.
Of course, which is not new.
unless you're
Humans have always
one
been
of
on
those
thin
people,
ice.
then like, how does that
Not
represent,
been well congested.
like, the culture, or whatever, it's like, well, that's kind of arbitrary, like, that pricing is so long. It's like, no, it was artificially inflated. And, like, people could not raise the rent and stuff like that.
we
You know, the cost of gas or whatever has gone up. We just haven't made decisions to change things because too many people have made money off of it. You know, it's like when I'm talking to students, I'm like, look, I'm not trying to sound like, you know, crazy conspiracy YouTube corner of the internet, but it's like, you do realize that part of the system.
I mean, oxtail. I thought I was doing something. I thought everybody likes oxtail. Craig usually wouldn't eat them. I'm like,
Yes, it's not.
you know,
Why would the system?
That's a very good way of putting it.
Why would the
red
system?
meat I've ever
Why would
made
the system be
is
designed
oxtail.
to you have looked and you won't find it?
Right, right.
It's like,
Yeah.
do you see Fight Club a while ago?
Yeah.
Remember when Brad Pitt, he had just had a fight and he was like, sure. With the element of history, you know, we're finally realizing that like, we're being sold
I
stuff,
forgot that it even existed.
shit that we don't need, you know, to impress people we hate kind of thing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
we're slow for getting very pissed off about it. It's like, yeah, like there's a real, like, you know, there's a real thing of like, if you want to live a realistic life,
now I gotta go home and separate this because
you
I put
have a very hard time
poems from one
living in San Francisco.
part of
If you're like an electrician or
it's
something
poems
like that, and your partner is doing
and then
whatever.
this is the one I usually
All right. Okie dokie. All right.
No more chattering.
How are you? You're right.
I'm feeling okay.
No camera.
La-di-da, la-di-da. Is this thing working?
It's gotten smaller.
Oh, yeah.
Is this working?
Kind you have in
I
there.
think it's working, Jerry.
All right.
I don't know if you're working, but
I don't know if I'm working either.
Film or digital?
So we have about 4 poets or so on the list, plus me and Michael. So we'll get Michael to start us off here.
so it's been really great tonight. I was telling Bill to hear his, revisiting of the early 70s. I came to town in 72, so we're kind of the birds of a feather in a sense. And of course, Jerry is a native, and Gail is basically a native of the Bay Area, definitely, right? Or
in San Francisco, the Presidio in 1951.
there you go. Okay, so I go back to the 100 years after the gold rush in 1949 is when I. But in 72, in the first neighborhood I lived, I was at Webster and Fillmore to start with, and then I graduated to Sycamore Street in the Mission, which was in the early 70s, was a hell of a scene. I'll tell you, that was. But it's what?
This one was popping back then.
Yeah.
Nobody knew who I was because I'm from here, you know. And said, "Where'd you come from?"
I knew you. I've known you forever. Knew you were here. And buds was still happening. Buds ice cream.
All right, I'm going to read a poem for Ronald Sauer, who some of you may know. He was a beloved North Beach poet who left us in 2019. For Ronald Sauer, 1950 to 2019. You could be carefree or insouciant as the need arose, or as night descended toward la nuit. We buried our snouts in the same trough, upside-down cousins in a tsunami. But your erudition, charm, and good looks didn't dare try to explain you. You could lie like a dog or lie in the mire, bristling with untamed life. You loved free-falling fire and shards of ice and fell toward grace like a glacier when you fell. Are you really gone, pirate blasphemer, battered polymath, jester on the fault line? Is that your spine in the beak of a bird? You still jive and jostle in the mulch of our dreams, still covet the dregs like diamonds. Dust thou art, mon semblable, mon frère, and to dust return with a fanfare of polyglot silence. Yeah. And of course, as we all get older, there's more and more people to memorialize. And sadly, more and more opportunities for that. But this is called No Not. The heart, no, not a generic heart, my heart, with its glossy upholstery and 40 meteoric dimensions. So the heart, and of course I speak of the planetary heart, scarlet sail to the wind. The elephant's heart is as big as a radio. I hear Mingus playing softly. The dove's heart is almond-sized. Of course, the dove's heart is actually almond-sized. But of course, almonds are another story. They waste a lot of water. So one of our pleasures we can, we feel guilty about. This, when the earth is stalled. I love you when the earth is stalled in its black ellipse and when it is round. I love you as if we were bones in a quicklime pit. When night stumbles, scarecrows fly up to egg it on, and your heart swells in my hands like a tiny horse. 0.9 pounds of runaway thoroughbred, elusive as steam. Yeah. Great, thanks.
Thank you, Mike. I think Michael's the first poet I met in San Francisco. Although I'm from here, I mean, there was always poets around, but it was at Minnie's Can Do Club over there in Fillmore. And who else was there? Steve Schwartz and Q.R. Hand, people like that, you know. Yeah. So, okay, I want to recite a couple of poems and sing a song. This is my last attendance at the readings here. I'm moving away. So.
When? Next month?
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, first I want to recite an early poem about my minstreling days, wandering minstrel days, called Gitara. The word guitar is from Sanskrit Gita, which means song. The gypsies were from India, and they were called gitanos, or singers, and they played guitars. But the structure of the guitar evolved from North Africa. The Moors brought the lute, the oud, to Spain, and then they fashioned the lute and then the guitar from that. And so anyway, this is called Gitara. Gitara. This is my dead companion. I used to take him everywhere I go. Alas, his poor old wooden head. It was always slightly out of tune. Like a moon when it is almost full. His strains were somehow incomplete. Yet like the moon's unstrummed, deaf and sorry. Like the moon's unstrummed, deaf and dumb condition, he was light and perfect for the road, ever at hand to cheer me on my way. One night I plucked the wild, wine-colored rose, and the strutting spider's thread lie broken, and dreaming only of my guitar's shape, I saw my love who lies beyond the sea. Oh, the gypsy, he cannot cross the water, for he fears that one day the fire in his blood would escape. So like a bandit who has stolen my affections, the ghost of my guitar sits in my lap and vainly serenades another and yet another empty glass. Ah, guitarra, guitarra, virtuoso amor, you alone, you were the last of your kind. Did we not say with one voice, Vamonos? How could I have refused the gift which only God may give? Sweet youth, adios, se ha ido con Dios. Oh, how the bones in my fingers ache. But sometimes, when there is no one left to listen, and the barren moon, like a waning memory, repeats her tragic steps, her fabled fiery dance across my lonesome little balcony. Faintly, faintly, who sings? For though these eyes can no longer see, my heart secretly flies out and tells me that the world is still very beautiful, and that I too was an instrument of God's holy abandon. And to remember this, I take up the cross of my companion once again and wander the streets of our beloved San Francisco. And when the Spirit moves, and where the Spirit's please, I pour out my song on some chance blood-red rose, nailed to these exquisite airs. And the duende weeping whispers in the pouring rain, bravo. And then this is kind of my latest thing I've been working on for a while. It's called Pop Satori. Sprawled across my bed, when pop goes my head, baby with a sudden bang so loud my whole bod shook loose. There, in the deepest sense, in its essence, all was but a bodiless blackness in the round, the very picture of emptiness, where you keep your cake and eat it too, where even without a dime to my name, spring jumps in, with its wordless wisdom everywhere I turn, a miracle, the slight of ordinary life and everyday affairs, the saving grace of these immaculate blossoms blooming in my fragrant garden upon awakening from this mirror-like dream. Water. Okay. I get it. Hello. Hello, 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 hello. This is the Ballad of No Face. Well, it summoned I flew. 'Twas Arctic dream time. I, the concubine of No Face. Their old man, maiden, his wife, could bear him no children, 'cause his virgin flowing formed into a fountain. It's like a fountain. Anima mundi, thou art child's play. In a trice upon the ice, this meaning was the old man's magic. He took his hat from his head and he sat in it instead. Thus I glimpsed its emptiness. 'Twas the mystery of his jest. Whatever grace it lent his face, it caught the essence of his ass. Here, in the secret silence, the icy ether, the black wintry void, we appear. Out of nowhere, like lightning and thunder, to bear and offer unseen wonder, unheard of laughter, unsung wisdom. Even as we prepare this throne, this ice blue lotus, this little royal glacier for our unknown ancestor, grinning from ear to ear, old man maiden disappears, leaving no tracks in the icy ether, the black wintry void. Here, in the shadowy mirror of endless becoming. Guess that's it. Let me see. I gotta get the list here out. So we have first up Daniel. Daniel? Still here? He left. Okay. So Brett Benson.
Okay. I'm gonna stand. How is that, Eric? Does that look good?
Yeah.
Right about there?
You're standing up straight. That's perfect.
Right about there? All right, cool. Okay.
Go down. Then we get the whole effect. Perfect.
The whole face, like a giant leprechaun. LOL. First one, inspired by W.B. Yeats' Sailing to Byzantium. This one's called Wildlands of Paradisia. Thou art descended from the galaxy above, golden rivers of cosmic energy and moon rock swimming down my illustrious veins. The eons old wisdom in flight flowing as all good things move upon the sun's kiss rejuvenating. The hope I never knew I would miss. And to the serene spirit, the one who never abandoned me, yet allowed for a sight to experience and see galaxies opening in my weary heart, of no design and minuscule material, yet infinite in purely attained essence. And thus we have traveled across many universes beyond measure and come upon the wildlands of Paradisia. O maker of steady, resilient ground, fortified by the perfect hand, my soul cries for picturesque sound, to know hope rising as my bones begin to stand. To seek and know thee, a cosmic definition to be, galaxies opening the caverns within, never explored. For sages and gurus, all who attained the way, saw bits of light emerging en route to coming upon a flawless light star, dampened most severely by the thoughts drifting away from source. The I is but an imaginary thing, a note human and fair to all future chorus we sing, holding all beauty thy sublime soul can bear, upon an elixir in nature's spring. To all living beings my tender nature care. And thus we are dying, and thus we are living. Not in the drowning of cruelest despair, but of dreams of peace and all the universal freedom granted. To any visitor of Paradisia, of stardust, of moon rock, and forever beyond, what can be measured? And then the second one is a work in progress, doesn't have a title. What is it that you need? 1,000 different things that you can't name right now. I will try to verse it, and yet I cannot say it because you are the one thinking of what you need. Any different thing that might come up, whether from the source or outward, I realize you're struggling to find out what you need. So I will be here through the storms, through the calm waves, through the serenity, through the rebirth, and through the death. Whatever it is, I'm hoping you will find what you are looking for. It won't be easy. I can't promise you it will be. There were many times where I wasn't sure that I was going to make it out of the gutter. You fall down and you stay there and you eat the earth sometimes because it's hard to stand up again when all of your foundations have cracked. I know what struggle is. You know what struggle is. I wouldn't tell you what the answer is, but I would say that sometimes all you need is a little bit of a speck of hope, one little bit of energy that I could throw your way to let you know that you're not alone in the universe anymore. If I just have to say that to you, I will. I know this shit gets hard, and I know you don't know the way sometimes, and I know sometimes all you wish for is a little bit of light. So there it is. Let it light the cavern in your heart. Remember, you're worthy of it beyond condition. Get rid of the garden, the idea of sin. You are a human being. I believe in you. The question is, what do you see in the mirror? Thank you very much.
Okay, David Hutchinson.
Thanks, everybody. This one's a Tonka poem. It's called Enjambment. A river unends in seas or mountains rising to carry bird flight. Over that or far below, the view obscured in distance. And this one's called Rare Earth. Can we know that plumage tail that flutters in the sea, from whence we came around the bend of bring forth sand or suffix? Laps and trails of recorrugation floating past, beyond obscure eddies purview of expansion, selling on the sinking comprehension that the sight has spun discover. When while away before the simpler has looked upon the years ahead, and varied forth with steam and guile, wrought the winds of carnage under sail. The whales of all migrations weaving patterns in and of, as the age of breaches nears and spouts the heavens not above. But within herds of bison rushing under clouds of carried gravity that meets and travels on the always in between. Redolence abound even undergone the slow decline of light in seasons that write the earliest renewals. The static hibernation of life's throes ahead of Wellspring's presentations. No separation of the onyx and the turquoise, just the quality of beauty dazzling to see, has roamed forever. This one's called Escarpment. It's about Starved Rock in Illinois.
About what?
It's a place called Starved Rock. Fault lies just as found, rising on trust and mindful balance. Edges vanish far below. Sound reaches there unheard to those standing up on high, shouting out the word precarious. So steep to starve the rock of leaves in the seasons of attrition, the growing frailness out there, bearing witness without mercy to the side trips of the tourists watching. Choices loom, themselves to turn and wait. Land bridges to an home, only reached by long desire, out there to face the returning sun, that circling orb, the only fire. Still welcome in the morning, but not to those on continent, the waiting game to render rock entirely sea-bound. Alone then finally, staring back at the glisteners, bereft of even longing for the vanished from before. No reasons left to want, so sitting knitting songs of transparencies and apparitions until those also are gone. By the moment for release has come, no more there to save, flown into the sky to fly among the brave. This one's, we had a tough winter, and the trees are stressed after a long drought and then a lot of rain and wind. So I've been seeing a lot of widowmakers fall. So I wanted to write a poem, and I did. And then the next day I went out of my place, and this big heavy branch fell on the sidewalk, and there was a woman with a stroller walking right toward it, about 20 feet away, and this guy with a recycling truck parks across the street, and it fell parallel to his truck, and he was in it. So this is called Widowmaker. Along some wayward path with windows left behind, through which the visions played for both the known and walking reachers, understrode the washed of imposition, still moving in the weeds of the last to see there the fragile strength of bone. Behind those left a room where lived the supposition that wrath freed of any gravity relied on all removed from wonder. If allowed to pall with audible yet still in such a moment to view the air, or that we try to appear, that has fallen to a death from high and gently caressing wind, as well once lived a life attached to more that witnessed loss, and stayed. I have one more if there's time. This one's called Tontine. The last to rest here undone by weight, for such to befall, the remainder of the swimming pool of Tontine become only all too clear. Each one a ledger all to the own, living absent fear of investment or loss of principle, without ethics freed of language. Incentives become ever more dire to eliminate the debts of bodies born so long ago to value receded into anguish. Fear of involvement after the fact, there are prices paid, not for living well but solely dying over distant shrinking clubs. Paid in growing interest of the pack that may appear as lack, one and another missed as mark, and the remaining rewarded in the crying. Possibly, but not always certain, some may be just gone, none to share the beauteous of life, but at last to perish into the dark. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, Ellen Harris.
Could happen. The next person who asks me why I'm so uptight all the time is going to get stabbed in the throat. But it will not be personal. It will just be the stress talking. My body having been flooded with stress hormones by my nervous system, which is very appropriately named, as it is a very nervous system indeed. Besieged as it is on all sides by external forces, such as compulsive competitors and bespectacled cavemen, and intimidating word buttons, and chaotic parking lots, and apocalyptic busy work, and walking, talking quotation marks, and disgusting food like bacon, butter, and self-hating old white guys reaching for that one last gasp of relevance who checked out the moment that they were born, having immediately become overwhelmed by the countless opportunities afforded them for complete and utter self-involvement. And of course, the limitations of existence. Existing being something of which I personally have never quite gotten the hang. I mean, obviously I possess the ability to exist, as I am indeed here, right now, reading this to you. I'm just not good at existing. I'm not comfortable with it. It's not something that comes naturally to me. I have to work at it. It's a constant struggle, day in and day out, having to remind myself not to try and eat broth with chopsticks, not to try and get laughs by laying down in the middle of the street and pretending to be a speed bump. Not to propose marriage to my best friend's girlfriend's left leg. Not to say out loud things like, "Oh my God, that nun is hot." And not to be content with the fact that, while I am a weirdo, at least I am a wholesome weirdo. Besieged as I am on all sides by the eclecticism of my own mistakes and the memory of that one piece of advice that my father ever gave me. Son, when all else fails, just do an imitation of your existence. Thank you. Hey, God, listen to me. Someone I know who apparently hears your voice in his head all the time told me that you told him that you're starting to have a problem with some of my attempts at humor that are at your expense. That you're starting to get the feeling that I might be skating dangerously close to the thin ice known as blasphemy. That because in the past I have jokingly suggested that you're just a big dick who likes to damn people to hell for trivial reasons like not coming to a full stop at a stop sign, or letting mildew build up in your shower, or like maxing out credit cards and only making the minimum payments, or like dotting I's with a little smiley face, or like saying nice things about Godfather 3. That because I once playfully considered the possibility that Mary Tyler Moore might be rattling around in hell because you didn't like the idea that, late in her career, she tried to change her sweet and wholesome image by making a film in which she performed oral sex on George Segal, that because of these jocular suggestions and considerations, you might be thinking about damning me to hell. Well, God, if I may, I would like to point out that if you were to do such a thing, you would just be confirming the suspicions of many, myself included, that you have a tendency to damn people to hell for reasons that many, myself included, might consider to be inconsequential. In fact, I'll bet that you're up there right now thinking about damning me to hell simply for writing this piece, which isn't even meant to be taken seriously. It's satire. You know, sarcasm, parody, spoof, takeoff, put on, pastiche, mockery, lampoonery, whimsicality, comicality, a bit of fun, you humorless, tight-assed little bugger. And I suppose now you're going to damn me to hell for calling you a humorless, tight-assed little bugger. Well, go ahead. Damn me to hell. It was probably going to happen eventually anyway, so we might as well get it over with. Bring it on. Bring on hell. But remember this, God. I want to be a believer. I want to believe in you and your whole goddamned operation. It is you who is preventing that from happening. It is you who is not putting anything into this relationship. It is you who is expecting me to do all the work. How about you worship me for a while? How about you come and pray at my altar? I mean, if you want me to believe in you, God, I need some sort of sign that you believe in me. Can I get an amen? Okay. Thank you.
Well, that's it. That's it. Thank you for coming. You won't see me next time because I'm out of here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Good luck, good luck, Jerry.
Yeah, Jerry.
All the best.
Thank you very much.
But hallucinate you, Jerry.
When are you leaving?
I don't know.
You don't know?
going our way?
Sure.
You too.
Gail.
Thank you.
Gail, thank you.
That last piece you said was a work in progress?
Yeah.
Sounds pretty ready.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Wow.
This is
It was,
Memorize the signs.
yeah, memorized, a little improvised.
Oh, thank you.
Well, it didn't. I didn't see any awkwardness at all.
I was like, I want the cover again.
Hey,
You don't have to tell me when you're
sometimes
going,
have
but
main idea.
do you know anybody in Portland?
Things I want to reflect on.
So,
You ever been there
I have a
before?
memory where, like, if I
You know, I go by your place sometimes on the bus, and at some point you invited me to come by whenever I wanted to. I don't know if that's still open.
no,
You're gonna give up your place, is that?
I never,
Whatever, man, whatever.
I never
Good luck
hear
to
his
you.
poetry.
Whatever you're
I never
doing.
hear his poetry and I'm sad.
How did your
Like, I'm
reading?
always like, I always feel bad.
How did the reading?
the older brother got
Oh, the
so
walk.
It happened, right?
Yeah.
How was it?
It was good.
It was like a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
Dad,
Middle of
it's like,
September.
I had these mothers always freak out about, like,
Getting there, you know? Somebody was saying the Golden Gate Transit goes there and then
Yeah.
Jean Powell. Did she show up?
yeah,
She did.
She read.
She read.
wow.
She read.
She read.
Who else read? Anybody else? You read.
Yeah,
I read.
yeah, and that's how
But I,
you know?
I read at the end.
Yeah.
Anyways, great.
Yeah.
Oh,
How many readers?
I really appreciate
We
it.
had 26 this year.